So this one is really different than the Empress.
I know.
When I look at them like, okay, so what is happening? Can you give me like an instruction of where I should look at first? It looks like an explosion. It looks like, I don't know. Give me the detail.
This one also starts with an E, I guess, but it's called Evolution. And what happened with this piece is I met someone who has a similar story to me. She's also Asian. She's an artist. Actually, she was our guest on Cherry Asian
Oh,
Story. Sheila Darcy,
yeah,
Sketch Poetic.
yeah, yeah.
And so we were introduced by a friend when we started talking about how we started out with the background of Asian parents who didn't really believe artists could make a living doing what they did. And she has a completely different approach to art. And she does intuitive art. And she suggested that we collaborate and do a piece together and one night just for her to show me her approach. And so she started me down this path of like, when I need to take a break from, because watercolor is very, very, believe it or not, in a lot of ways technical, because it's such a spontaneous, it's hard to control medium.
Yeah.
You have to plan out the illustration way in advance because of the way the colors work. You can't just keep painting over it. So I have to think about a piece like Empress a lot before I create it.
Yeah.
For this process, she's like, we just let our intuitions go, and we come up with sort of an intention. You can come up with a word, an intention, a feeling, and you just go. And so when I worked with her that one night, we created a piece together, and she said, this is how it works. And so it became a release for me when I started doing stuff like this. I was like, I'm evolving. My work is going to evolve in a different direction. And so when I did this piece, I went in with the intention of like, with the thought, I'm going to evolve my work. And so that's why this piece is called Evolution. And also, so believe it or not, I mean, if you see, there are these little sort of wavy tail things
Yep.
sort of towards in the middle of, they look like tadpoles. And you know how, like in the sea of life, they're evolving into different creatures and emerging onto the land. So this whole thing just kind of speaks to me of sort of like a sea of life, and creatures are evolving all the time. And I just really, the process of this piece was, I use a lot of water, and I use intense inks and colors, and I let it flow on the page just according to how I feel.
Yep.
And it when I'm done with the colors, it's very, very wet. It takes almost like overnight to dry, and then I go in with the ink, and I try to keep the same intention, and I just let the ink sort of carve out the actual shapes that are happening on this page. It looks very different from when it's just color to after adding the definition of the lines. And I just love this process.
And those are all like gold paint, right? Because I see some like sparkly.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
really, really cool. Like to me, when I look at it, I thought it was some kind of abstract sea world with like different sea creatures coming out, or
Yeah.
like your brain decided to explode.
Yeah. And it's amazing because I actually, when I first created this, when I put it on Instagram, I can't remember if I put it on Facebook or Instagram, but I did poll people to see what they saw. And like 90% of them saw sea creatures, which
Yeah.
is kind of what I went in, I went in with that intention, even though it's an abstract. People got that feeling from it. So it made me feel really,
Yeah,
recognized.
you achieved that, and this is really different than the other artworks you have done. So perhaps you could just go for that path, go for this path, and start like drawing abstract like watercolor pieces.
It's really, really fun to do. And Yeah, and actually one of my later pieces that's going to be on the online story. It's sort of a combination of the two,
Hmm.
like the abstract and the more representational. So I think I'm working in that direction. So yeah, between the realistic and the storytelling to the abstract, and I'm putting it all together now.
People, Sandra is evolving. So
Yes.
pick up this illustration now, because like a year later it might be completely different.
Yeah, this is this. So that's why this is called evolution. It's really definitely one of my favorite pieces when I started down this path.
Amazing.